Hello, Bobby Torres of Frightbox Recording here. The question is this: are you using too much EQ on your master bus? And also, should you be using EQ at all on your master bus? Let's discuss. Now, before we begin, I just want to let you know this. If you're looking to improve the sound of your mixes and your productions, you have to understand that it all comes down to a solid understanding of EQ and compression. And because of this, I'm offering you direct access for absolutely free to my crisp and clear heavy mix formula. The heavy mix formula is comprised of three main components: an EQ and compression mixing cheat sheet that has all of my starting points for all of the main instruments within a heavy production. Below each of the sections, there is a clickable link to a full tutorial of that specific instrument, so you can watch me mix that instrument in practice. And right below each video, there is a multi-track download, so you can download the exact same files that I'm mixing, and you can practice your mixing by mixing along with me. Again, there's a link below to the crisp and clear heavy mix formula. It's absolutely free. And you could have direct access right now by clicking the link below. Now, just recently during a live call with the Frightbox Mix Script, I had a member ask me an excellent question in regards to EQing the master fader or the two bus within your mix. Now, I follow a very simple rule of thumb. If I feel like I have to do anything extreme as far as EQ is concerned to my mix as a whole, in other words, EQ on the master fader, which is going to affect the entire mix, then I know there's something wrong in the mix itself. That's not how I approach EQ when it comes to the two bus. Now, in this video, I'm going to share with you the approach that I do take when it comes to EQing the two bus, and I think you're going to find it very informative, and it's going to really help you out when it comes to kind of adding that final polish to your final mix before mastering. Now, right here, I have an audio sample by my good friends in a band called Mainline. It's actually of a live recording and video production that we did out of my studio, Frightbox Recording, and I'm EQing the master fader in my traditional way, where I'm adding a little bit of gloss at the end of the mix, and I'm going to share it with you. Let's listen to the final mix of the song. Let's check out the sample. So again, this is a live recording that was fully multi-tracked out of my studio. The song is called Sanctum, and the band is called Mainline. You can check out the full video of the live performance. There's a link below in this video's description. So this was the sample with the subtle EQ applied to my two bus. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna continue playing the track back, but I'm going to bypass my EQ, and I'm gonna point out to you what my approach was when it came to adding the EQ in the first place and what I was really looking to accomplish. Let's listen to the sample without any EQ. Excuses are the same. I pass who I am. All I got is my name. So in my opinion, the mix sounds good. It sounds well balanced, but it feels like it's a little boxy and a little unclear. Now, if you're playing your mix back and it sounds like your kick drum is way too loud and there's way too much low end or no way near enough top end, I do not suggest trying to pull that out of your mastering EQ. You're much better off getting it right within the mix. But what I'm hearing here is just that extra 5% of clarity that's needed to kind of bring this live mix up to the result that I'm looking for. So I'm gonna continue playing the sample, and I'm going to re-engage the EQ so you could hear the difference that it's making, and then I'm gonna dissect some of the actual individual moves themselves, and we'll talk about it. Let's check it out. So if you notice, when I engage the EQ, it all of a sudden kind of opens up the mix. It just makes it sound a little clearer and a little more open and a little more polished. And the moves I'm making here is extremely straightforward. Let's go over each of the individual moves. The first thing, I've noticed there was a little bit of a buildup in the low end, a very subtle amount, not a lot, just a very small amount. And because of this, I'm using a low shell filter and I'm just reducing all frequencies below 77 Hertz by 1 dB. Nothing crazy. In my opinion, it was just easier to do this on the two bus than doing it on my kick drum because some of that low end might be coming from my bass guitar and even the low end of my guitars. So I preferred to do it globally, but it's not a whole lot. I'm not going in here and knocking it down by 10 dB, nothing crazy like that. Also, I felt there was a little bit too much cloudiness in the lower mids, so I'm pulling out 1.5 dB at around 190 Hertz and about 0.5 to 0.7 dB at around 350 Hertz with basic bell filters, nothing extreme, just reducing that range to kind of clear out the lower mids because I heard a little bit too much lower mids going on in the snare, guitars, and even on the vocals. And doing it on my two bus here, or my master fader, just helps clear up the mix in general by adding a subtle cut, or subtle cuts in this range. And then finally, I felt there was a little bit too much harshness going on in the actual mid-range around 2K. So all I'm doing here is pulling out 0.5 dB, and that's about it. What I'm gonna do right now, just so you can clearly hear what each of these moves is doing to my mix, is I'm gonna play the mix and I'm gonna one at a time re-engage each of these filters so you can closely hear what each of these filters is doing to the mix. Now keep in mind, this is very, very subtle, but it is affecting my mix on a global level. Now, if you're having trouble hearing these very subtle moves, I recommend listening on headphones so you can truly hear what each of these cuts is doing to my entire mix. Let's check it out. There's no saving every day. Time is shaking so So again, as you can hear, that roll off in the low end is just helping to declutter the buildup of the super duper subs. A little bit of cutting in the lower mids to help clear out the mix and removing a touch of harshness at around 1.5 to 2K. And that's it. Most of the time when I'm EQing my two bus, it's in a fashion that's very similar to this. I will very, very rarely boost anything. If I cut anything, it's usually no more than 1 dB, maybe up to 3 dB at max. But again, once I start getting past that point where I need more than 3 dB of a boost or a cut, it's time to dive back into the mix and get that mix right with basic EQ, compression, and level on your individual tracks. And again, if you'd like to learn more about mixing and producing better results with the gear you already have, even if you're using stock plugins, you could have direct access to my crisp and clear heavy mix formula. You get an EQ and compression cheat sheet, private tutorials for each of the main instruments within a heavy production, as well as multi-track downloads that accompany each of the lessons so you could practice your mixing by mixing along with me. Click the link below and you could have direct access right now for absolutely free. So tell me, I'd love to know, what's your approach to EQing your master bus? Do you use a lot of EQ? Do you not use any EQ at all? Or you're not sure of how you should be approaching EQ on your master bus in general? Leave a comment below and please share with me your opinion. I'd love to hear it. If you found this video helpful, like, comment, subscribe, and share. And do not forget to click the little bell icon so you can be notified every time I upload more weekly videos on all things metal and rock production. If you're interested in some Frightbox swag, we got t-shirts, mugs, and a ton of other cool stuff on the way. There's a link below to the Frightbox merch store in this video's description. Until next time, happy mixing.